Hello guys, welcome back to today's class. So last time we talked about how to create style guide. So today we are going to talk about using those style guide to create interactive designs. So what is interactive design? Interactive designs are element that we use in our design. We use to create our designs, either the web or the mobile. So here are some examples of interactive design we are going to create. So we are going to create these. So these are some elements of design we used in our design. So here we have the buttons. Here we have the input field. Here we have the checkbox and the radio button. Here we have some icons, and here we have some FAQ accordion. Here we also have some image card. So here we are going to preview and show you how all these elements actually work. So I'm going to preview this, and I'm going to preview to see how it works. So here we have them. So I'm going to set this to fit width, and I'm going to take out this header here. I'm going to show the Figma UI. Now you can see that this is actually an interactive element. So when I take my cursor out, I move it over, I can now move to the button. So same thing for here. When I click on this, it works. Same thing for the button, the checkbox, the radio button. So when I over to this, and this, so you can see, and then when I click on this, you can tell I move this and I move like this. Now we're going to create all this. So we're going to create all this. So I'm going to also show you how I brought out this image card, and I made it responsive, which it can fit for the web and for the mobile. Now take a look at this. No matter how I increase it, everything is always fixed at a position. It can fit for the mobile, can fit for a mobile like this, the tablet, and also the web. You don't need to start creating different cards for any of the screens you want to design. Now also for this FAQ, so you can take a look at it. No matter how I increase it, everything is always fixed at a position. So we are going to create all this starting from afresh. So we're going to recreate all this. So we're going to pick all our elements from the previous style guide that we just created. Now let first thing first. So we are going to get, so I'm going to take this here, and then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new frame. So I'm going to use desktop frame. So I'm going to name it interactive design element. Interactive design element. So I'm going to drag it down. Now first thing first is we are going to create the button. So we're going to create the button to make it hover. When our cursor move on it, is going to hover. So first thing first we're going to do is we're going to take from this, or okay, let's create a new button. So let's create a new button. So instead of taking, so let's create so I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate this and move it here. So I'm going to align to the left and align to the top. So I'm going to I have dropped my title box. So I'm going to create the button. So what are we going to do? So I'm going to use a perfect font for button creation. So what I use for button creation is medium of 18 or 16 font size. So for here, I'm going to use medium font size of 18. So this is my 18, and I'm going to duplicate it out. So let's duplicate it out. So once I've duplicated it out, I can now cut it and then take it to my frame. So I'm going to drop it here, and I'm going to paste it. Good. So if I paste it this way, so the next thing I'm going to do now, we want to create this button to make it hover. When our cursor touch on it, it's going to hover. So what am I going to do? So I'm going to change the text to button. So once I change to button, so I'm going to make it button A or whatever you want to make type it as, no problem. So once I place my button this way, what is the next thing I'm going to do? So in our previous class, I taught you how to create button. So we use auto layout to create button. So once I've put my text, I don't need to stress myself. I will just right click and then add auto layout to it. So once I've added auto layout to it, this is how it's going to look like. It's going to show a notification that said auto layout has been added. Then what's the next thing I'm going to do? I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to give it a fill color. So what color are we using? So we're going to get our color picker and move here and pick this our color. Good. So once we pick this our color, we're going to come back here. We're going to take this out and we're going for, because of visibility, UI and UX visibility. So we are going to change this text to white. So I'm going to take this to this place, white. I'm going to take this out. So now we don't want our button to be so tiny this way. So we are going to set our button. So what am I going to do? You're going to make sure that this is aligned to the center so that when you drag this way, it won't get, it will respond immediately. So I'm going to move this like this and I'm going to scroll up. Now we talked about our button height and I told you that we can use from 44 to 60, sorry, from 45 to 60. So it cannot be 44, it cannot be 61. Okay, so once we've created this, we're going to make our button. So I'm going to use button height of 50. Now I don't like sharp button. I always love my button to have a curved end. So I'm going to use 20. Now I have created this button and I'll make sure that it is responding as I'm playing around with it. Okay. So I'm going to return it back to 50. I can just choose to leave the height this way, the width this way. Now, what's the next thing I'm going to do? I am going to create another button. So when my cursor touch on it, it will change to another color. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make this a component, just like the same way we did our different kinds of button when we are creating different kinds of buttons. So that's how we're going to do for this. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make this a component. So once I make this a component, I'm also going to make this a variant. So I have made this a variant. So what am I going to do? So I'm going to click on this property here. So you can choose to change the color by clicking this and then changing the name here. Or you can just double click on the frame and then change the name. So this is going to be button and you can just change the name here, button. So once you change the name button, so you're going to change this as, so you're going to click this play just the same way we did our previous class. So you're going to remove this as default and then change it as maybe active. And then you're going to click on this and then change it to overlay. Okay. Now you can see that the two buttons are the same color and we don't want the same color for the button. We want the bottle one should be different. So we want this to have the hover color. So what are we going to do? We're going to click on this and we're going to scroll down, go to our color picker. So when we go to our color picker, we're going to pick the hover color. So I'm going to go back to our style guide and I'm going to select this color. So I have select this color and I'm going to go back to my design. So now you can tell that we have the same button, the same write-up, but different color because this is standing as active button and this is standing as over button. Now we're going to go to our prototype. So when we go to our prototype, we're going to click on the first button to take this to this place. And then remember we're going to have this setting and I'm going to click on this. So I'm not going to click it, just hover I want. So I'm going to click on the drop down and click while hovering. So once I click on it, this is what I have. Then let's create a new file, a new frame where we'll be testing all our elements. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to select the big desktop or MacBook frame, which is the 16 inches. I'm going to bring it in here. So I'm going to change it to test element. testing of elements. So I love naming my frame. So I think I will want you to do that also. So they're going to be testing of elements. So I'm going to double click and take one. So I'm going to double click and then take one. So I'm going to click on this place and then I'm going to present my design. So this is actually a full screen. So I prefer to present it to take me to another page. So I'm going to click on present. So if it is mobile, you can go ahead and then present it this way. Now I want to take out this now if I take my cursor out, I don't want to take out this header here that shows me Figma comments there, and I want to take, so I'm going to click on this option. I'm going to click on fit width. So once I click fit width, it's going to fit in together. Now I want to take this header out. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to show Figma UI. So I'm going to click on this. Now it's out. So we can go ahead and test what we have created. Can you see that we've done it? So it's as simple as this. Very, very simple as this. Now the next one we're going to create is the input field. Now let's go back. Now let's create this input field this way. So we don't need to start from afresh, but we are going to redo it again. So what is the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to my style guide. I am going to pick my text. So I'm going to use font size of 12. So I'm going to pick font size of 12. So let's keep it this way. Let's keep it this way on top so that we can see it. Let's go back and pick our title. So we're going to pick 20 for label text. Okay, let's use 24, which is medium. Let's keep it this way. Now let's pick okay, let's go and create with this. I think I will go with 20 because 20 seems better. Okay, let's go with 20. So I'm going to take this 3 to my frame. So I'm going to take this to my frame here. So now let's create our button. First thing first, I'm going to create this and make it text. So this is what we are creating. Enter your first name. So I am going to, okay, let's create it that way. So it's going to be enter your full name. So I have created this. What am I going to do? Auto layout. So I'm going to hold my keyboard key of Shift and A at the same time. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use the same size here. So I'm going to use 50. Good. Then I'm going to drag it. Now, why I'm dragging it is giving me, it's telling me that this thing is set at the center. Now, I don't want it to set at the center. I don't want it to be fixed at the center. So what am I going to do? I'm going to come back here and align to the left. So once I align to the left, if I am not comfortable with the space here, I can choose to keep my cursor this way and then move it. So while I'm moving it, take a look at this place. It's now showing me here is 12 and here is 12. So this place, this horizontal padding. So here we have the left hand side is 12, the right hand side is 10. So here is vertical pattern. So vertical pattern means the up and the right. So both of them are sharing the same number. So yeah, I'm going to just click on this two and then make it 15. Enter. So the next thing is I want to create this. I want to give it this color and then this stroke. So what am I going to do? I will have to go back to my design and then scroll down and then add the stroke. So once I add the stroke, this is how it's going to be. And I don't want it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here. I am going to select my lighter shade color. Remember, we're picking everything from the style guide we created previously. So I'm going to select this gray color and I'm going to come back here to my design. I'm going to come back here to my design and I'm going to give it a corner radius of 20. So I'm going to change this also to this gray color. So you can use your keyboard shortcut, your just your letter I, and then you can just click here. Now good, we have created this. Now the next thing we want to create is adding our title to it. So here I'm going to use 24. So I'm going to place it this way, and I'm going to write full name as the label. Now we have created this, and I'm going to hold this, and then make it auto layout. Now we have created this. Okay, so what are we going to do? We need to create when someone is about to type, and so when someone has already typed the name. So we need to make it interactive. So what is the next thing we are going to do? We're just going to follow the same way we did while creating other input field in our previous class. So let's do it now. So I'm going to make this an auto layout, sorry, a component. I'm going to add a variant. So I'm going to change this property to be, so I'm going to remember to just click on this property. So I'm going to say input field, input field. So I'm going to make this, so I'm going to say this is active. So I'm going to change this to before typing, before, okay, let's use it typing. Let's say typing. So now let's change it now to look like someone is actually typing. So we're going to double click on this and just add your letter okay. Then we're going to leave it this way. And then the next thing we're going to do, we are going to design or create a variant of when someone is done typing. So let's create another one. So I'm going to zoom in. So let's pick, let's undo and pick this one to be easy. So now let's change the name. First thing, we are going to change the name to done typing. So let's use cap lock, done typing. Okay, now let's change the name of this to my full name. Let's change this to my full name, and then let's change the color. So I'm going to use my color picker, and then I'm going to pick this color. Okay, then I'm going to change this element, instead of gray, to be black. So let's just pick this color here, and let's make it 1.5 to at least be little bit thick. Okay, so the thing 1.5 is too much. Let's use 1.3. Okay, now we have active. I'm going to delete this. So now we have the active input field. We have when typing and once done typing. So I'm going to increase this a little bit because it's looking tiny. So I'm going to increase it to medium, and I'm going to use 14. So I think this is okay. Okay, semi bold. You can choose to use semi bold depending the size of font or font choice you are using. Now let's make it interactive. Okay, so go back to a prototype, we come back, click this place, and then we move it this way. So it's going to be on click. So we're going to take it straight. This also is going to be click. Now let's drag it out and test it. So I'm going to go back to my design, and I'm going to drag it out. Now let's preview what we've done so far. Now this is what we've done so far. Now let's test. Good. Perfect. Okay, so we've done this one. So the next one we're going to create right now is going to be, so the next one we're going to create right now is this radio button, the check button, so the checkbox and then the radio button. So what are we going to do? So let's duplicate this. So let's take this out. So you can choose to go to your icon to get it as icon, or you can choose to just replicate it. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to duplicate the radio button as well. So I'm going to take both of them out. So I think I made a mistake. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to also take this out. So I'm going to highlight all. So cut it. So I'm going to move this here. So I'm going to take it to the top. So now let's create our radio button here. So I'm going to bring this here. So now let's go and get our font width. So I'm going to use 20 for it. So let's use 24 so that it will be visible enough for everyone to see. So I'm going to copy, or you drag. So I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to paste it. Now let's create the first checkbox. So I'm going to create checkbox. So I'm going to make this checkbox. So I'm going to add this. So everything I'm creating here, I'm just creating them using auto layout. I am not using frame, I'm not using rectangle. So everything here is just auto layout. To tell you that is how good auto layout is very, very good at. So I'm going to make this auto layout. So we have this way. So I'm going to take this out. So we are going to make it the same way to just turn on and turn off. So the same way we did for the button, or the same way we did for the input field, that is the same way we are going to do for this. So now let's do that. So I'm going to click here, make sure it's aligned at the aligned to this left, and make sure it's aligned to the like straight, not the text is up and this is down. So make sure it's aligned to the center left. Then components, then add variant, then change the name to click, and then we're going to change this to on click. So what am I going to do? So I don't need to stress myself. I just have to move this inside this auto layout and then delete this. So let's make this a component. Let's make this prototyping. Go to your prototyping. Click on this checkbox and drag to this. Click on this checkbox and also drag to this. So you just make sure all of them is on click. So now let's test it. So go back to your design. Take one of the box. Keep it here. And go back to your, so let's wait for it to load. So let's wait for it to load. So what's going on? So I'm going to change while we're waiting for network to come up. So I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to get this color picker. I'm going to make it same color for my button. So I'm going to take it like this. Okay. So while we wait for it to load, okay, I think we have to refresh this. So I'm going to drop it here. Take this guy out. I'm going to drag this, and I'm going to present what is going on. Okay, let's close the page and let's open it again. So while we're waiting for it to load, let's go and create the radio button. So the same way we did for the checkbox, that is the same way you're going to do for radio button. So let's be sure we have this here. Okay, so we're going to just get the image we pasted. So we're going to make this radio button. So we're going to make this auto layout. Now you can see why I said be sure that it is aligned to the center. So I'm going to go back to my setting and I'm going to align to the left. So I'm going to change this color. And I'm going to reduce the spacing. Then I'm going to bring this out here and I'm going to make this a component. So let's rename it to radio button. So let's make it radio button here. Let's see if it has load finished. Okay, still loading. Okay, let's add the radio button and then be sure to test at once. So we have this, make a component, add variant, click on the property, click here, change to radio button, then change this to click, then make this on click. They're good to go. So we're also going to do this for checkbox. I'm going to change this to checkbox. Change the property name to checkbox, and you're going to take this in here and then place it inside and then take this out. We don't need to start setting it again because with using auto layout, you've already set the properties and the elements. So let's move this radio button here. So I'm going to duplicate, click. So, okay, we have to prototype. Don't forget, you have to do prototype first. Now let's go to prototype. Let's drag this radio button to this, the icon, click on click, and then take me to the next one. And then I'm going to select this element here and I'm going to move it to this next one, put in the next same settings. So let's go back to our design and let's drag this to this page. Okay, let's refresh it again. And we have it this way. Now let's test it. You can see that we've tested it. Now let's check this. Good. So I'm going to take out this because I just refreshed this particular page, my prototype page. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to fit to it, and I'm going to show just Figma UI. And let's test everything that we've worked on. Click, click. Good. Now let's go back. Now the next one we're going to create is going to be this card element. So we're going to create this card element now. So I'm going to take this picture. So I'm going to borrow this image here. Okay, let's use another image to show that it is actually not the image that I set. Let's create for my friends. So I'm going to get a random image. So let's say bag. Let me get a random image. So I have brought the bag. So I'm going to paste it. Now this is a random image of bag. So I think the image is blur. So let's get a clear one. Okay, I think another bag is better. So I'm going to bring it in here and I'm going to reduce it. So I'm going to use 250. I'm going to set proportion so it will just move the same way. So I'm going to drag it inside. So I think I'm going to take this blur image out. I'm going to use now the first thing I'm going to do now, we want to create this card and we want to make it responsive this way. You get. So what is the next thing I'm going to do? So let's create this first and then we create this together. Even this one too is responsive. So we're going to create this and then create this card. So first thing first is we've gotten our image. Now we need the title text and then we need the pricing. So I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to get my title text. So my title text is going to use 24 semi bold and I'm going to use 18 medium for price. So I think I would love to use an amount that is standing very well. So let's use 18 medium. Okay, let's use 20 medium for the title text. So let's highlight the both of them and then let's move it to this. So I'm going to like to make that price to stand out. So I'm going to use 28 semi bold. So let's take it this way. Let's cut it and then let's move it to this paste. So now we have this. So now let's create our price. So I'm going to say this is let's say 10,000 naira. We have this here and then we have this here, and this is going to be our, okay, I'm going to take this out and I'm going to say this is going to be our text. So I think this is actually tiny, so I'm going to take my 24. So I deleted it, so I'm just going to undo to bring it back. Now I'm going to delete this out. So I'm going to say this is a title. So I'm going to say this is the title for the bag. So this is going to be Kids Pinky Panda Backpack. So we have this. We have this. Now I'm going to make this our color. So just on your keyboard, I pick the color and then you come back. Okay. So what is the next thing I'm going to do? Auto layout as usual. So I'm going to make this auto layout and I'm going to hold this. I'm going to drag it down a little bit and then add auto layout. Then I'm going to click on this first auto layout I did and I'm going to click on this drop down and I'm going to make it fill container. So once I make it auto layout, what is the next thing I'm going to do? I'm going to click on this card and I'll make it auto layout. So once I make it auto layout, I'm going to click inside the next one and I'm going to come here and then fill container. Then let's test what we've done so far. Okay, so nothing is actually moving. So I'm going to click on the first one, check fill container, align to the left. Second one, fill container and align to the center. Now I'm going to click on this. I'm going to align to the center. So let's test it. Okay. Now you can see it is actually moving. Now I don't want this to move because in our e-commerce card, all the write up is at the left and while the image is at the center, and then we have the pricing here. Okay, so you can see that it is now fixed, like it is now responsive. Now we want to add image to show that this is actually when our cursor touch on it, like this, showing that this is how it's going to stand. So this way it doesn't tell if it has a background or not. So now we will click on it, we'll make this, we'll change this to active card. Sorry, I'm going to use small letter. Now I'm going to add an image. Scroll down, I'm going to, sorry, a background color. So I'm going to give it background color of white. I'm going to scroll down and then add my drop shadow. Now you can see it has added something like a stroke under. So let's set it very well. So let's play around with the drop shadow. So I'm going to bring it this way and I'm going to increase this and I'm going to increase the blur. Okay, let's not make it too much. Let's just play around a little bit. This is okay. So I'm going to reduce this opacity. So I'm going to reduce this Y. Okay, so I'm going to make this. So I'm going to make this. So I'm going to make this a little bit darker. And I'm going to give it corner radius of 20. So I have this. Now you can see that I have, and I need to check if it's responsive. Yes, it is responsive. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to add my button that says add to cart. So I'm going to a little bit. Don't forget to give it padding. Don't forget the default padding is always given is 10. So I don't like this 10 because it seems to be too close. So I am going to come here, give it padding of 30, 30 here and 30 here. So I'm also going to give this place 30. Now I now have enough space for the contents or the content inside to actually have enough space to breathe. So the next thing I'm going to do just the same way. So once you are done with it, test if it's working, make a component, add a variant, change the property name to be card. You get, so this can then make this active and then this to be hovered. So we're going to make this hovering card. Okay, now we want to change. Now both of them is actually looking the same way. We want to add our button inside, and then the image to be a little bit reduced, and then the text to be effective, like to have more effect than this, more drop shadow than this. So I'm going to drag this a little bit, and I'm going to reduce the image a little bit. So I'm going to scale my image. So I'm going to scale it a little bit. Good. Then I'm going to go back to move. So I have the height of 5. Okay, let's take this to a number instead of using a this map. So I'm going to use 20 for the 520, and I'm also going to make this 520. Now, good. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get our button. So I'm going to use our button here. So I'm going to drag it and I'm going to add it inside. So if you're adding it, make sure you add it to the first auto layout you did. So when you add it, this is how it will look like. Don't be scared. So what you're going to do, you're going to hold the button and then the amount. You're going to make it auto layout. So once you make it auto layout, you want this button to be here, right? So what are you going to do? You come back here, click on this auto layout settings. So once you click, you want this button to be here and this amount to be here. You go back to the setting here, click on the drop down, then move the amount to the first side. Then you hold this two together. Then you now move it to this place, to the ending part. Good. Then what are you going to do? You want it to be responsive, right? So you're going to click on this drop down, fill container. Then check the next one if it's actually in fill container, fill container. So let's change this to add to carts, add to carts, add to carts. So now let's check the height of this if it's actually 520. Yes, it is. Now let's play around with our drop shadow. So I'm going to move this up and I'm going to play around with it. I'm going to add another one because I want this up to have it. Let's bring this a little bit down. So I want this up here to have it. So what am I going to? I'm going to click another drop shadow. So I'm going to pick the first settings for this. So we have 4.2. So let's make it 5. We have 5, 5, and then we have 3, 3, 3. So I'll go back here. I will set it 5. And I'll come here. I will set -5 because I want it to be at the top. And I'm going to say the year is 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And here we have 13% for opacity. Now let's zoom out and see what we've created. Perfect. This is what we've created. What are you going to do? The same way you did same way you did for the button. That is what you're going to do. So you come here, go to your prototype, then you drag it, come here, you go to this drop down while hovering, and then this way. So we already have the button while hovering. So now let's test what we've done so far. So I'm going to click this out, move my active card this way. So let's move it this way. There's enough space. And then let's test what we've done so far. So I'm going to go to this place. Now we have this. This is it. This is it. So nothing serious. So this is what we have. So this, and this. Now let's go back. Now let's check if it's actually responsive. So we can go here and then click while hovering, and we can check if it's responsive. Now, do you notice that something is not responsive here? This button is not responsive. So what are we going to do? We're going to go back here. We're going to go to this place. So now let's check here. So let's make it responsive. So we're going to go back to the component, and we are going to, it's already in field container. So we're going to click here and then make it hot. So we're going to make this place also hot. So let's this. So let's see if the settings correspond here. So we don't need to struggle with it. Just go to the primary component and just make the main component and then do your setting that way. Now you can see no matter how you increase it, it's responsive. It's responsive, right? So perfect. Now the next thing we're going to work on is these icons here. So we're going to work on this icon, and then this is going to this last one is going to be the last one we're going to work. So now let's work on this. So the next one we're going to work is this. So I'm going to pick all these icons. This is the normal icon that we already know. So we're going to pick fill. This is a fill icon and this is outline icon. So let's zoom out and then pick the icon. So you can get your icon from your icon plugin. So now let's pick our icon. So let's move to our file. So let's move this way. And let's paste it. Okay. So let's come this way. So I'm going to, since I'm just copying from the previous design plugin, you can just get your plugin from the normal plugin, Iconify, Feather Icon. We talked about plugin on our style guide, so you can pick any of the plugin there. So you pick your outline icon and your fill icon. So I'm going to discharge instant since I pick it from components. So here we have the outline icon, and here we have the fill icon. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to change the color to our color. So I'm going to zoom out. So I'm going to use this color and I'm going to zoom out. So what am I going to do? I will just make this the same way hover. So I'm going to make, so I'm going to say, okay, let's make this color, this icon inside to have the same color as of the stroke. So I'm going to click the selected color. I'm going to get my color picker. Okay, so it didn't give me the color because I didn't zoom in to pick the color. So I'm going to pick my color here and I'm going to give it this color. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out. So I'm going to just make it the same way of hover, make this a component. make it a variant. So once we make it a variant, so I'm going to take those ones out. So I'm going to bring this here. So let's get this color to paint this way. So I'm going to zoom in. So I'm going to click on it. So don't forget to rename your properties. So I'm going to get my color picker. So I'm going to pick this color. I'm also going to scroll down, change the black to this. I'm also going to give it a fill color. So I'm going to give the icon a fill color. Okay, you can choose to just leave it this way, or you can choose to give it a fill color. So I'm going to select it this way, and I'm going to select this. So let's select the icon itself. So let's just leave it this way. So we can take this out. Okay, hold on. Let me see what is going on. Okay. So we can leave this way, and then we can delete this one outside. So we can delete this one outside. So now in the same way, just click on the first one, go to your prototype, then you click this, so you drag it this way, and then it pop up the settings. You go to Y hover. Okay. So what are you going to do? You're going to test what you've done. Go back to your design. Then you now drag one of it. Then you drag it out. I guess Figma is having issues because it's actually making my Figma to hang. So let's wait a little patience. So I'm going to drag it. Okay, let's just cut it. Let's cut it. Let's move to this and let's paste it here. So let's zoom in. Now let's test what we've done so far. Okay, does not reflect. So let's click on this and then now let's test what we've done so far. So let's go back here. Now this does reflect. So the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to check. Now you can see that it changed. The color changed from black to blue. Change, yeah. So let's increase it so that it will be visible enough for everyone to see. So I'm going to hold the two icon inside. So I'm going to click the two icon inside. I'm going to scale, go to scale. and then I'm going to increase it. So I'm going to go back to move, and I'm going to increase my property this, and I'm going to hold one and then bring it down. So I don't need to stress myself because it has already reflected here, because I play around with the master component. So going to come here, hold on, I'm going to see, load this again. Okay, so let's delete this and then return, bring it back again. So remember, we've already set our prototype. Back to design, and then I'm going to drag this in here, and I'm going to preview again. Now it has reflected. Now you can see that it is now visible enough for us to see. So the next one we're going to create is this FAQ accordion. So so the same way you created this icon, so that is the same way the same way you create this cat icon, that is the same way you create for favorite and then account. So let's do it one more time so that you guys will understand. So I'm going to duplicate this one I have already created here. So I'm going to duplicate this out. So I'm going to cut it. I'm going to zoom back to my file. I'm going to paste it in here. So I'm going to make it big so that it will be visible enough. I'll come to here, click scale, and then drag it this way. I will go back to move, and then I'm going to take it out, the start instant, because I took it from components. I am going to make it this way. I am going to make it a component, and I'm going to rename my property to fav icon. So let's change this. So just the same way we do for the button. So this is going to be like favorite icon. So I'm going to make this, so I'm going to change this to active, and I'm going to make this hovering. So it's 1E hovering. So I'm going to give it this color. So I'm going to change this stroke. So I'm going to come to selected colors. I'm going to select this. I'm going to select this also to this color. Now I'm going to make it, go back to my prototype and then drag it, go to my settings, click Y hovering, and I'll go back to my design. Then I'm going to click one of the icon, and I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm going to click this, present again, and then there we go. So we have this. Okay, so now this is how to create all this. So the last one we're going to create is going to be the FAQ accordion, which is this. So what are we going to do? First thing first, we're going to take our title. So we're going to take, so we're going to make it very, very bold for everybody to see. So I'm going to use 28 semi bold. So I'm going to bring it in here. So now let's create it outside. So I'm going to move it this way. Okay. Okay, let's create it here first. So let's make this a question. Why this? Okay, why do you want to be a UI UX designer with a question mark? Now I'm going to make this to be capital letter U, and I'm also going to make this capital letter U. Now I have, why do you want to be a UI UX designer? So I have this like this. So let's move it to our frame. Let's work on our frame. This is just like what we did, what we are replicating. So now this is what I have done. So I need my body text. So I'm going to get this. Let's use 20 regular. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come back to my design, and I'm going to paste it here. Now I need my body text, so I'm going to use a plugin. So I'm going to right click, go to plugin, go to um, saved plugin. So what I'm looking for is not on this recent plugin. So I'm going to go to okay, it's actually not here. So that means I don't have it. So I'm going to come to this place and I'm going to click on plugin and I'm going to look for content breeze content re. Now this just filling dummy content for me. So I'm going to wait for it to load just the same way you get your icon. So that is the same way. So I'm going to click on next. Next is just like a welcome. This is a welcome onboarding welcome or welcome screens. So we have this. I'm going to click on text. I'm going to click on this Lori Insum. I'm going to click on this. Now it has given me a dummy content. So I'm going to come here, take it inside the frame. So you're going to zoom inside the frame, going to zoom inside the frame, I'm going to zoom inside the frame. So I think this is okay. So but let's reduce it, it's too much. So let's reduce it from here and add full stop to it. So let's take this out. So I don't like how the text is being aligned together. So I'm going to come here to my line height. So it's not responsive. So I'm going to add the 0. Then I'm going to play around with it. Okay, so this is perfect. So I'm going to reduce it. So what is the next thing I'm going to do? So I need this icon here. So we are going to take this. So we are going to take this and we are also going to take this. So what is the next thing we're going to do? So I'm going to drag it in here. So let's take this a little bit to the end. Okay, it's at the end. So let's take this way. Sorry. So let's take it this way. So I just want to be seeing the color of my text. So once I add a background, I'm going to do it outside. Okay, so now we've created this. So let's now arrange it to be responsive just like this. Let's make it to be responsive just like this. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to show you something. So let's make it responsive to be just like this. Okay, and when you do like this, it's going to be responsive just like this. So now let's move to here. So let's leave this. Let's take this icon here. Okay, sorry, I did not pick the right thing. Good. So I'm going to take this down a little bit, and I'm going to add this to auto layout. So once I've added auto layout to it, so what is the next thing I'm going to do? So I am going to So hold on, I need to be very, very careful when creating this thing because it can be very, very tricky. Very, very tricky. So the first thing I need to do is to create this an auto layout. So I've created this an auto layout. I'm going to click on this text itself and I'm going to come to fill container and I'm going to click this and I'm going to go to swap. So I am going to text it one by one to be sure it is actually responsive. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to check. Okay, it's working perfectly. So I'm going to return it back and I'm going to give it padding of 10, the up and the right padding of 10. And I'll make sure this is actually aligned to the center. So this is it. So the first thing I did was, now let's do these things again. Now, what is the first thing I did? The first thing I did was, the first thing I did was Let's remove this from auto layout. So the first thing I did is we have this our icon here and we have this our title text here. So what did I do? I hold these two together and I made it auto layout. So when I made it auto layout, I clicked on the text first and I came to this place and I move it from fixed width to fit container because I want it to be responsive. I want it to fit mobile and I also want it to fit web. Now I have moved it this way. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this first auto layout I did, and then I'll move to the align to the left. Then I will now make this to swap, like you want it to swap. Like if I'm moving it to one, you want it to swap. And then I'll come to this place and I'll give it alt. I don't want to start playing around with the 62. I want it to be automatically this same size. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a padding, the up and the right. If you watch, it's just too close. So I'm going to give it padding of, let's use 20 and let's use 20. Now this is what we have. Okay, let's use 15. I think 20 is too much. So let's use 15, 15. This is what we have. So I'm going to give it a fill color of white. And then I'm going to change the corner radius to be 5. Now we can now take it outside. You can now start working outside of it because we've created a file. So I'm going to bring this here and I'm going to bring this here. Okay, so we've created this. So what is the next thing we are going to do? Let's test if it's responsive. You can see that it is responsive. You can see that it is responsive. But when making it responsive, it seems there's no space here. So what are we going to do? So we're going to check this. So this is actually fit container. So we're going to click this and this, and let's take it back to 62. Let's see the space between them. So you can see that there's no space between them. So I'm going to return this way and I'm going to create a space between them. Let's create a space between them. So I'm going to move this element here to fit container. So let's test what we've done. Okay, so you can see that there's now space between them. So let's return it and let's make it swap and then let's make this hot. So now let's test it again to be sure. Okay, all right. So we have this. You can just choose to not make it hot. You can just leave. So you can just choose to not make it hot here. You can just leave the figure to be that way. Okay, so it will create that space for you. Can create that space for you. Now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to create. So the next thing we are going to do, we are going to create this. So we are going to add this text to it. So what are we going to do? We are going to so what are we going to do? So we are going to add this text to it. So I'm going to bring this text here. So I am going, okay, let's do it outside here. So I'm going to bring this text here. So I'm going to reduce this. So I'm going to reduce this. So I will give it a corner radius of 10. So I'm going to come here. So I'm going to bring this inside. So let's continue working inside. So I'm going to bring this in here. So I'm going to increase this here. And I'm going to make this, so I'm going to add a straight line. So I'm going to add a line and I'm going to reduce the opacity. So once I reduce the, just like to show that this is the answer that came out. So I'm going to hold these two and make it component. And I'm sorry, auto layout. And I'm going to hold this one, go to make it fit container. So once I make it fee container, I'm going to hold this and then I'm going to drag it to make sure that it is actually responsive. But it seems this one is actually not responsive. So I'm going to come back here, fee container. So I'm going to test. So make sure you're making everything fee container so that it will be responsive for you. Okay, so now we've created this and then we've created this. So I'm going to align both of them to the same place and I'm going to drag this to get to this point and I'm going to hold it to and then I'm going to make it auto layout. So once I make auto layout, I'm going to make sure that everything is actually responsive. So now you can see that it is not responsive while trying to play around with it. So what are we going to do? We're going to click this fee container and this to be fee container. Now let's test it. You can see that it is responsive. Good. Now we don't want this space. Now let's click at this space is too much here. What are we going to do? We're going to click on it and we're going to reduce the spacing. So this is okay. So I'm going to give this a fee container. So I'm going to give this a color. So I'm going to add padding of, so we use 15. So I'm going to use 15. Now let's test everything. Perfect. You can see that everything is now responsive. Now, this is actually the size of a web and this is the size of a mobile. Now, so you cannot tell which size is actually the perfect size for mobile. So what are we going to do? So I think I noticed something. Okay, I noticed something. Okay, okay, okay. This is actually not responsive. So I'm going to hold this. So I'm going to hold this and this and make sure it is fee container. Okay. So now the next thing I want to, so I'm going to give it a fee color and I'm going to make it 10. So let's take it out of this frame. So this is what we have now. So this is what we have, which is what we are going to test again. Okay, this is perfect. So now this is actually the size for a web, which you already know. And now we don't want to exceed the size for the mobile. So what are we going to do? We're going to come here, click on add minimum width. So the minimum width for mobile is 360. So let's use 300 for instance. Now this is where it's going to show you, it's going to stop. Now if you adjust and it gets to that point, it will not move again. So this 360, 300 is actually too small. We can't place this in a mobile. So we need to return it. Let's say this is actually a perfect size for mobile, which is 441. So let's go back to our minimum width. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click on this and I'm going to change it to 400 or let's use 430. 430 is the size of a mobile. So which we have a perfect size is 410. So we have this. So once it gets to this line, it's not going to move again. This is the perfect size for the mobile. Now let's test it. Look at it. Look at it. Okay. So this is what we have. So this is a perfect for the mobile and this is for the web. So we have this way. And then the next thing we're going to do, we want to make it responsive, just like what I showed you when we started the class. Once you click here, it's open, you click here and it's closed. Now, so what are we going to do? So we are going to make this a component add variant, which is going to be the 2. So we are going to change this. So we're going to change this property to be, so we're going to come here just the same way you change your property. So we are going to call this accordion, sorry, not accordion. And we are going to change this to close. And we are going to change this to open. So now both of them is showing the same way. So we are going to change this icon. So I'm going to bring this icon in here. So I'm going to make sure I'm adding this icon here. So if you want to add the icon to be close to this. So I'm going to click here to see where the other icon is. So this is the other icon. So I'm going to delete this. Sorry, to move to that way. So I'm going to close the eye of this. So this is what I have. So now I'm going to make this to be interactive. So what am I going to do? So let's make it interactive in the design. So let's say we are not going to duplicate this. So we just need to come to the component, turn the eye on or turn the eye off for we to actually do this. So now I'm going to change this to, so I'm going, sorry, before I turn off that, close that text. So I'm going to click on this text and I'm going to click on this text and I will come here and click on this. I'll make this text to, I will create a text property. So I'm going to come here, just, you can leave it text, you can leave this, the value like this, and then you just put create property. So once you create a property, you can now go ahead and turn the eye of this particular element. So you can just choose to yeah, you can just turn the eye, and then I'm going to make this yes. Okay, let's make this no, and let's make this yes. So we've made it yes and we made it no. So I can then bring out this out. So once I bring this out, you see that instead of the drop down, it has changed to a switch, like a toggle icon. Now, why it changed to a toggle icon is because Figma has a way, like when you put yes and no to any properties, Figma has a way to just make it a toggle button. Now let's take this a little bit higher and let's click on this and let's click this and this. Okay, now let's delete this guy. So let's delete this and then let's create our component. Now we can turn it on and off if you are designing a UI. Now a UI FAQ section where you just, the first one is just going to tell you this is how it will look like, and then the second one is just going to be this closed FAQ question. So the first one is going to be open and every other one is going to be closed. So we are going to do for the prototype now. So we've created for how the UI FAQ UI section is going to look like in the visual design in your web or mobile. And now let's create for the prototyping. So we are going to go to our prototyping just the same way. Then click on this icon, move to this, make sure it is click, and then move to this and this to this. Okay, now let's go back to our design and let's test it. So you need to make sure that it is actually responsive. Okay, don't forget, you need to be sure it is actually responsive before you can do all this. And then let's see if this is actually working. Okay, now let's move this particular one to our testing elements. So our testing elements frame. So let's move it this way. Let's go. So I think we have to do smart animate because we want it to just do come out that way. So we have to go back to our prototype and edit our prototyping setting. So I'm going to, instead of making it instant, I'm going to make it smart animate. 300 milliseconds is okay. I'm going to go back to the same thing and make it smart animate too. So let's go back. So once we've done the settings here, it automatically responds to display because you play around with the master component. So now let's go back to our testing. Okay, so I'll have to take this up so that it will be visible enough for us to see. So I'm going to take this up and I'm going to take this down this way. So let's scroll this way and let's bring this to the down. Okay, let's see if I can take these guys this way. Let's see if I can take this, excluding this. So let me arrange it to the way that it will be visible enough for us to see, and take this guy here and then bring this here. So I'm going to move this here and I'm going to move this place. So now let's test what we've done so far. So I'm going to present. Now it has arranged, so let's test it. Now you can see. But now it's not giving us a drop shadow to tell us that this is actually on a this is actually like it just placed there. We need to add a drop shadow. We don't need to make the background white. You can choose to just move it out from white background. So let's go back and move it out from white background. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to move this here. So I'm going to move this here. So I'm going to go back to the component and add white background. So and take it out from white background. So I'm just going to move it a little bit from white, just a little bit from white. So I think this is okay. I'm going to also pick the color. So let's move it down a little bit, and then let's pick this color, and then let's add this color to here. So automatically it has reflected on this particular end. So we'll come back to our design. Okay, okay, it's still not giving us what we want. So I'm going to go back and check my settings. So this is what. Okay, so I think I picked the color at the wrong side. I added the color at the wrong side. So I'm going to select this particular frame and I'm going to give it the fill color. So I'm going to paste the color since I already have the color. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to remove this color. So I'm also going to paste this color here. I'm also going to paste this color here too. So I'm also going to look, something is not right. So I think I took the wrong color out. So I'm also going to, okay, I'm also going to add the color here. Okay, so where is the other one I turn on the eye? So I'm going to come here and add this color here. And I'm also going to select the whole of this, the no, and add a fill color. Okay, so now automatically it has already fit this. Now you can see that it has automatically filled this. Now let's go back to our design and see what we've done so far. Now it has changed. So this, this, and this. And you can see. Now if you come here and then we click on this, now let's come back to the UI interactive. Now when we come back to the UI interactive, so when you just click on this toggle button, it just change. You can see how good auto layout is. It can be very, very tricky, but if you calm down slowly to learn it, and then you'll be so perfect on it. So thanks guys. See you on our next class. Bye.